Hey friends, happy end of November. Oh hey look, you can see wrong way. You can see the shadow of my Christmas tree on the wall back there. Anyway, totally irrelevant. So here's a little like chat update, like what I've been up to, sort of vlog for you. It's been an interesting few months, and much like much of 2018, it's been and interesting feels like the best word for it, because there are good times and bum times. But so I've been doing a lot of learning. I've taken a couple classes related to divination themed things, which is interesting for me because I never took a class when I was learning tarot. There, first of all, weren't many, and when I was learning, um, in the early days, it was really all books. I didn't know anyone else who read, or I guess I did, but I sort of quickly decided that I needed to keep it a secret from anyone. So never really took classes before, and I'll talk about those. But not they haven't been related to tarot, so I haven't done a whole lot of tarot related stuff. And so I thought, oh, maybe I'll do like a what decks have I been using video, but actually I haven't been using that many because I haven't done a whole lot of readings. I get, client readings are sort of sporadic for me because I don't really advertise. Um, so I've had a couple of those, and I will occasionally read on Instagram, but I didn't really do any challenges or anything, and I haven't had I've made a handful of videos in the last few months related to tarot, but not as many as I usually do. Um, so I have, I don't really have decks that I've been using. Other than that, I've sort of pulled out the Corte de Taroki, which is one of my favorite decks. Um, I put this in a video recently, and it made me keep it out because I've had it on the shelf for a while, and I thought, why did I put that back on the shelf? I put it back on the shelf when I moved here, because I have less in my office set up on the desk in front of me. I sort of have less space than I used to because I used to have another table, but that table's being used by something else. So anyway, so the Corte de Taroki I used. This is just one of my all-time favorite decks. I've talked about it in many videos. I love shuffling it so much. The one downside to this deck is because it's tall and skinny. It's almost unusable for most of the spreads that I do when I read for folks, when I read on video. But the other thing, so this is something I just pulled off the shelf, but I'm really, really loving it. I've had this deck for a long time, and I have a video, I think, where I unboxed it, and I never really used it. And I knew at some point that it would become part of the repertoire, and I would think about it every once in a while and think, oh, I should pull that down. And at one point, someone actually asked me to trade it, and I thought about it and said, and then I didn't. I actually ended up buying a copy to gift to the person, and I'm glad that I didn't get rid of it. So when I was looking at the Indigo Alchemist Tarot the other day, it made me think of this somehow, and it's the Shimonette, however that's pronounced. Um, so not a new deck to me, and I do have a video of it, but something made me go, oh, check out that deck just for the hell of it. And I did, and I've been using it, and it's really good, and I'm really glad that I didn't get rid of it, and that the person who wanted it has a copy of it now. Just really, so this, again, is not a new deck. It's still available, from the artist's website. It's spelled, let's see, Cheimonette. I'm trying to see if the artist's name is on here. Eden Gallanter is the creator. And I forgot actually, but the little white book is in color. You see it? Doesn't say much, but I I really have long appreciated this deck, and just it never really called out to me, but it started calling out this week, and it's we're having a good relationship. So I really love it, and I think it reminds me a little bit, not artistically, this isn't sort of just my connection to it reminds me of the Shadowscapes, and it reminds me of the Jacarizza. There's just something about it that makes me think of those things. And I like it, and it's effective. So really happy to have pulled that out. The other thing that I did was I took Kelly from the Truth and Stories Ohm class. I'm not really going to flip through these bad boys because it's nothing to flip. But that was a lot of fun. I had no relationship to ohms prior to that class. I took the class because I actually had an ohm deck that I never used because I hadn't really learned the system. And in fact, what I learned from taking the class was that that deck was not super useful as you're learning. I did pull it out. I think Kelly did a video of this, but while she was teaching that class, she found this deck on GameCrafter, and it's a really it's got less trappings and associations on it. So this one, I actually really prefer and used a little bit more. And then there was one that we sort of hand printed too. So this is these videos are so hard to make. That's why I don't show my face more. I mean, that and my distaste for looking at myself while I'm making them. So this was called, I don't even know how to pronounce it, Cran Ogham Celtic Oracle by Osvaldo R. Ferris. So this was on GameCrafter. So that class was a lot of fun. I fear that I had a tendency to be class clown a little bit, because I had a bad influence. You know who you are. But we had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun in that class. So it was really nice. So I got, just because I like spending money, I got these ohm sticks on Etsy. And again, they're not really all that interesting to look at. There's a lot of people who make these. Each tree association is what's carved on here. There are some really beautiful ones out there I've seen. They're also really expensive. I just wanted something, I just wanted to see what it felt like to sort of cast this way. And so I'm glad I got these. These were probably about $40. And certainly not as aesthetically gorgeous as others. But there was actually something really beautiful about pulling out the sticks and using them to read. And then the cards I mostly got just because these don't really make a good picture on Instagram. So, but I really liked that, and I pull them out occasionally. I honestly don't have the knowledge yet. I haven't sort of memorized all the figures and their meanings and associations, but with Kelly's class came a lot of handouts, and those have been really useful. So when I do a reading, I'll pull a few sticks, or staffs, I guess is a better word for them, and I sort of work on it. Again, like, I tend to treat, it's so odd, but I tend to treat divination like a math class, or like math. So I sit down and I say, all right, here's figure 1, here's figure 2, it means this, it means this. And then I kind of tease out, or it's like diagramming a sentence. Both things people hate doing, and they sound really unsexy, but it's not that bad. But I'll pull out a meaning from them. And I find that particularly useful. So I took that class, and I really liked it. And then I took Camellia Elias's Lenormand class, which was in 2 parts, and I initially only signed up for the first part, but I enjoyed it so much that I signed up for the second part, and the second part was really entirely about the Grand Tableau. And I have been a fan of Camellia Elias's work for a really long, maybe not a really long time, but for a while, and she has a particular style that really resonates with me, and her fingerprints I think you can see all over my book. So this was kind of like a make or break moment for Lenormand for me. I thought, if this class if I can't do it with this class, I just can't do it because I've been really struggling. And actually, what I found was that approaching Lenormand from Camellia Elias's point of view uh, was eye opening for me. And it's hard to talk about without sort of giving away the class, but um, I think if you are someone like me who has been intrigued by it but hasn't had much luck with it, I would actually really recommend her class. First of all, it's fun. She's really smart as hell and funny and super laid back. I was actually a little scared because I've been reading her work for a long time, and I thought, she's so take no prisoners. But she's really a lot of fun to listen to, and that approach permeates her reading. And what was impressive to me and what I found most helpful in the class is that she is less interested in the traditional meanings, and she's more interested in function and reading through the function of the symbol and the literal item in the symbol rather than what someone says the card means. And that resonates to me. If you've seen how I read Sibylla, I have a very similar approach. So that translated nicely into this. So, for example, if you were to, get the flowers, the flowers card is traditionally associated with gifts and surprises. I mean, everyone knows what this flowers card looks like, right? I can't even get the lighting right. There we go. If you get the flowers, it's a gift or a surprise. What her thing is like, no, because that's what someone said it means based on cultural associations. For her, it's about what's the function? What is a bouquet for? What does it do? And so in many senses, a bouquet is a gift or a surprise. But what she asks us as students to do is return to sort of the beginning of the symbol. What does an anchor do? So the anchor is the work card, right? But she'll ask us why, and we'll explore what the card means. And like, what does an anchor actually do? Well, it stops movement. It grounds or stops. And so she gets us thinking in terms of the function of the symbol rather than the symbolic meaning of the symbol. And so that was really helpful. And so as you get the star, for example, the star, the anchor, and the trees. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. So idiotic. I hate this mirrored thing. I should just use my camera to do these and just assume everything looks fine rather than using the webcam. Anyway, so you look at the function of the tree. What does the tree do? It pollinates, it roots. You look at the action of the function. What does an anchor do, and what does a star do? A star twinkles, a star burns, for example. So, in the context of the reading, you look at the function of the symbol, of the item, before its symbolic meanings, and then you put together your sentence based on that. And then everything, which this is something that is really important to me too, and it was important even before I started approaching her work, is about the question and questions. And that really, again, it really resonated with me. So, if the question is, how do I improve my work life? And the combo is star, anchor, and trees. What I'm going to do as a reader is say, well, what does a star do? A star twinkles, it burns, it shines. An anchor weighs, stops, halts, sustains. What does a tree do? It grows slowly, it pollinates, it creates oxygen, And so I say, well, you want to shine in a steady way while you slowly grow your skills, for example, and so that to me made a lot more sense than trying to say, like, oh, your reputation, well, that would be the moon, I guess, in many cases, but like, whatever the case is, you know what I mean? Like, it just made more sense to think that way. So I really, really liked that class a lot. And then the whole class on the Grand Tableau was fascinating because for 5 weeks, I think, we really just worked on different techniques. Sorry, there's noise in the background. I thought someone was coming in my apartment. You could have watched me get murdered. It's just the folks upstairs. Um, with the Grand Tableau, she uses all these techniques to answer a really simple question. So it's not it's really practical and really sort of in connection to my way of reading tarot. So it was really grounded in about like the affair, and not like a whole life's journey. So that and the deck that I'm showing you here is actually a deck I got during that class. This is the deck that she uses in a lot of her videos. I don't think this is the edition she uses. It's a German deck called the Wolfsgarten, I think. But I really like it. It's small, but it's not mini. So it really fits nicely on my table. And super, super clear, simple images. The only thing that's weird about this one is I think it's the mice card is a table. No, the whip is a table. But that's the only weird thing about that. So that was those classes that I took, and I really recommend both of them. So if Kelly does another Ohm class and you're interested in that, definitely take it. Definitely take Camellia Elias's classes. She, I think, is teaching a playing card class coming up in the new year, which I'm kind of tempted to do, because it was just a lot of fun. She's a lot of fun. And she records all of her classes, so if you can't attend live, you can go. So the Lenormand class was really refreshing. I always go back and forth between Lenormand and Lenormand and Lenormand. It was really refreshing to strip everything back from what it's supposed to be. Excuse me, to approaching it from the function. Excuse me, of the symbols. So I've been doing that. And then following that, I began this journey into teaching myself astrology, which I'd never thought I would do. I don't even quite know how this sort of emergence occurred. I think it occurred because I ordered a 2019 planner, Benabel Wen's Metaphysician's Day Planner. I ordered it, which I hadn't worked with before, and in it comes a copy of your birth chart. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I've always kind of avoided looking at my birth chart out of some, fatalistic terror. But at a certain point, I decided to say fuck it, as I do, and not wait for the copy of the day planner to come out for me to actually cast my birth chart and start to learn how to read it. And it's been really fascinating. So I might get asked what I used to cast my birth chart. What I found is, so there's, I think, I don't remember. There's a free site where you can do it, but I didn't find it all that clear. So again, being sort of spendy, I actually bought time passages for my Mac, and there was a Black Friday sale, so I upgraded it to the advanced. There's like different iterations of it, and it gives you different things. Although I have to say, I probably would have saved the $70 I did for the upgrade based on what I got. In the standard version, which is the one I think I had initially, it doesn't cast solar returns for you. In the advanced version, it casts them, but if you want to read the systems interpretations, you have to pay more for that report, and it's not cheap. So, but anyway, I have the ability to at least do solar returns. I have had no relationship to astrology up until this year. My only real relationship with astrology was that I found the relationship between astrology and tarot problematic. And I've talked about that a lot. And I still do. Like, I just don't feel like the systems are a natural fit. That said, I've been assured by various writers that I've been reading that will change once I learn the system. It's a lot, though. I mean, that's the thing I'll say, is that it's so much to learn. So here's how I've been kind of going about it. Definitely a self-study course. I'd actually really like to take a class because I feel like that would hold me accountable in some measure to do it myself. But anyway, so I started just at Barnes and Noble, and I found this. This is a fairly new Schiffer, Red Feather, which is Schiffer, book called The Beginner's Guide to Astrology. And actually, it's sort of it's a spiral bound sort of workbook. And I worked through it, and it was pretty good. You know, it really is super basic. But that's what I needed because I honestly didn't even know the glyphs. So this book is what I started with a few months ago, and this really helped me memorize the glyphs, basically. And it helped me get a basic understanding of how things work and what it does. And working with my birth chart, it allowed me to understand a little bit in a way that made sense, and it sort of helped me understand. It's super basic, so this is probably not the thing I would recommend if you're interested in going down this path as I am. But it's for like a pre-primer. I think that this is good. So from there, I got sort of two simultaneously. So Elron recommended this series to me, The Only Way to Learn Astrology, which is by Marion D. March and Joan McEvers. And I've been reading it slowly and highlighting and going through. So the idea behind this, which should theoretically be effective for me, is that it's a workbook, except what it really is a book with tests at the end of each chapter. And that's not because I'm not good at sitting down and memorizing, and I actually find that really boring. The content is really good. So from that point, in terms of learning the system and referencing it, but I don't, excuse me, I don't really work all that well when then my job is to sit down and memorize shit, which there's a lot to memorize. So kind of concurrently to that, I found this, Astrology for Yourself. And the reason that I found this is by Douglas Block and Dimitra George. And this is very much a workbook, which I absolutely did the work in. If you follow Chani Nicholas on Instagram or any of her media, she's kind of brilliant. And Dimitra George was one of her teachers, and so she recommended another book on her channel. But she said it was a little advanced, so I started with this, and again. Super basic. It's a lot of kind of fill in the blank, but it definitely gives you a sense of how things work, and it explains some things that weren't in the other two books that I had looked at. So worked through that, and then I went and started asking around about classes because I thought there's no way I'm going to memorize this stuff unless it's put into some kind of practical application. And no one was really able to recommend anything. But what did happen was that someone said, "Oh, Benabille Wen has a self-study course," and immediately went to her. I did not know that, and so immediately went to her website, bought the course, which is super cheap for what it is. I mean, I think it's like $50. It's crazy. So super cheap, and she sends you all of this stuff, and you print it yourself. So she recommends, just because she knows what it is, Lulu, printing it through Lulu, which is probably your best bet. So I went through Staples, and that involved a little more work on my part, and what I didn't realize was I should have added, so I had to insert the cover into the document, and then what that meant was actually the sort of pagination, like the facing pages got wonked. So it would be a little bit easier to navigate, if I had known that. But I went to Staples due to impatience, as Liz Lemon would say. So you get these two, over 500 pages of stuff to work with. And this, I would recommend... she recommends spiral binding it, which has been helpful, but I actually think an alternative to that would be useful is actually... but putting it in a binder because there are times where I want to flip through and move things around. So this is super thorough, and what's really great about this is that it covers 2 house systems, which I didn't even know existed. So that was also really helpful. So she explores whole sign houses and sidereal houses. Both are different, and those are, by her estimation, the 2 most popular systems. And I didn't even know there were different systems. So that's great. Also, being Ben Belen, it's incredibly well researched, incredibly detailed, and what has come out of this too. One of the things that is not in front of me is that as you work through this, you're really meant to be building sort of your own, what she calls a grimoire, your own book on astrology. And I haven't started that yet. I have been going through and making notes, and what I've learned is, what I'm going to have to do is actually start that book soon and really start to do some research on my own and start to build sort of pages for this book around what everything means, and doing the research, sort of like what I did in Tarot on Earth in terms of the numerology. I'm going to have to do for the houses and the signs and the planets and the asteroids and the luminaries. So I've been looking for reference books that I can use as I go through that. And so the other thing that I picked up used, when I go into something, like, I don't fuck around. So one of the ones that was recommended on the Astrology School's YouTube channel is Parker's Astrology. Now this is an old edition of it. It's funny, I'm realizing. So I bought this used on Amazon. It was marketed on Amazon as in good condition, and on the back of this it says acceptable, and it's definitely not in good condition. There is, I don't know if the more recent version is out of print, but it was super expensive, and this was like $15, and I said, screw it. I like the cover better on this one, and it's cheaper, so I'll go with this old version. So I got this. I got the Llewellyn Complete Book of Astrology, also used. And so if you actually have recommendations on reference books that I should look at, let me know. So that's what I've been up to. So slow going there. I do have some ideas for how I want to incorporate astrology into my tarot reading, but not in the traditional way. Or at least not from my understanding of the traditional way. So I have an idea for working with someone's birth chart or their transit chart in order to create a tarot reading around opportunities. So that's why I sort of started working on this. And also just exploring my birth chart has been really interesting. At some point I had learned that my rising sign was Cancer. And it never really made much sense. Well, it turns out that's actually where my moon is, and my rising sign is Aquarius, and that makes like a fuck ton of sense. And the fact that my moon is in Cancer also makes a lot of sense. So it's been really fast. And then there's a lot in my birth chart that makes no sense. Like how many of my planets are in the 7th house is really interesting to me. But all fascinating and just interesting. And the idea of it sort of makes sense, when I think it's in Benabel Wen's book, where she talks about the pull of the moon on us, and of course it has an impact on our daily lives. And so while it's not fatalism, the energies, the magnetic whether it's literally magnetic or the spiritual magnetism of the movement of the heavens, makes sense that it would impact us. And here we are in the middle of a Mercury retrograde, which, I guess it's common for us to sort of misunderstand according to astrologers. But I do, all the things that are supposed to happen do tend to amp up. I mean, just trying to publish my videos lately, the few that I've made have been such a giant pain in the ass lately. It took me 3 hours to upload a 20-minute video the other day. It took me more than 4 hours to upload like a 15-minute client video the other day. Like, that's insane. So, and we'll see how long this one's going to take. So that's, anything else? Any other interesting books out there? No, I don't think so. I've also been writing and, working on some theater stuff and going through my day-to-day life at work. Been suffering a cold, which is finally starting to abate, and I've been just sort of playing around with drawing on Procreate on my iPad as a way. Like, I have this fantasy that one day I'll create a deck, but I'm not an artist. But I feel like digital tools can maybe help the artistically clumsy. But again, it's like, is it what I want it to be? Who knows? So I've been doing that and just like trying to get through the year. Put up my Christmas tree the other day, as you can see. I can't stand this. You see the shadow? You probably won't be able to see it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. All right. Hope you're good, and we'll talk soon.